So, a lot has happened in the past year. A lot of things have changed. We need to start considering how we change management and leadership roles and activities in order to progress accordingly. So, the idea behind management is that management is there to maintain a number of aspects of a team in place, make sure that the people have the time, the budget, the staffing they need, the knowledge they need, and so on. And the manager is there to support the team. A good manager can only be a good manager if the team is effective. Traditionally, there have been two approaches to management, the mechanistic and the systemic approach. So the mechanistic approach is the traditional approach to management, going back to Taylorism and the concept that you are nothing but an employee. You're probably trying to cheat the company in any case. We need to work around it. We need to control you. We need to command you. You're too stupid to know yourself what you should be doing. We need to give you everything we want. One of the aspects of mechanistic approach that we find very frequently is the idea that we need an open plan office. Again, open plan office goes back to Taylorism, to the factory concept. I need to be able to see what everybody is doing. I need to keep everybody under my eyesight at all times because you're all trying to cheat. Now, when we are in a factory of some sort, that makes sense. When we move it into a knowledge-based economy or a service-based economy, and we build offices like this one, it becomes ridiculous. And we know that. We've got the statistics to show that open plan doesn't work, and this is nothing new. Tom DeMarco, who died this past week, published in 1987 Peopleware, in which he gave the statistics on the drop in performance in an open plan office compared to a team office. And he republished this about 8 years ago, in 2013. It still holds true today. On the other side, we have got the systemic approach to management. And the systemic approach to management is trying to keep a flat structure and to move things around according to needs. So it is very much focused on communication aspects. It is very much focused on trying to get people where they need to be, when they need to be. It's much better for complexity and ambiguity problems, and does not rely on a management presence at all times. These are the two traditional approaches to management that have been in place at least since the beginning of the 20th century. And I would argue that the mechanistic approach to management has probably been in place since medieval kings and barons. But then something happened. I don't know if you remember being happy at 2020 starting. 2020 very soon got taken over by this bizarre thing which took over the world. It seemed to control the whole world. It brought us all into the habit of wearing masks and being in lockdown. And so we had empty streets and we had empty offices, and people started working from home. People working from home creates a whole new problem because people are trying to do their work, but they are being distracted by children playing, by the smell of cooking, by partners being present, by all kinds of things that they never had within the office space. A lot of people were working in incredibly uncomfortable situations because they didn't have the appropriate environment that would allow them to work. Sitting on the floor, sitting with a burning laptop on your knees on the couch for hours on end. A few were lucky enough to have a good home workspace, and could benefit from it and really turn up their productivity. Some of us just didn't really understand the need for all this fuss and made the best of it and maybe dropped productivity a little bit. And certainly the biggest change is we all learned to recognize each other's pets and bookshelves. Basically, things changed. Things changed fundamentally. People who were going to the office, who were commuting every day, found out they could do their job from work. Employers realized their employees did not just laze about when they were at home. Sometimes they were significantly more productive. Sometimes they were significantly less productive. You had to start managing a team, which included people in different areas. Some of them were in the office. Some of them are not in the office. Everything is changing. So you need a new roadmap. You need a new understanding as to where to go. I'm going to do this in 6 sections, talk about general management styles, the difference between management and leadership, the skills that are needed, and particularly the skills that need to be reinforced and strengthened now in this new environment. Talk about some of the problems about this from an organization point of view and from a chaotic point of view, and then leave you with the conclusions. So management style, different people need different types of ways of working. The traditional approach we find in just about every organization is I have a vision, an idea. I got some goals I put in place, define something, create a plan, do the work, deliver a product. That is the minimal approach to actually doing anything, whether it is building a house or delivering software or doing your accounts at the end of the year. We then get the managed approach where we start measuring progress. And we start measuring progress so that we can update the plan on a regular basis and understand why I've fallen back, why I'm a little bit ahead. My wife has just spent a lot of time these past few weeks correcting exams for Cambridge students, English students. And she very quickly set up herself the metrics and said, okay, this is how many days I've got. This is how many exams I've got to check. So I know how many I can do a day. And every day she would measure how many she had done and decided I need to put in an extra effort. I've got to work an evening, or I'm ahead of time. I can take some time off. Maybe we can go out for a walk, relax, whatever it is, continuous management. The next aspect, of course, if you have got these data now, you've got these measurements, is not just updating your plans, but updating how you plan. So you want to be able to use your past information to update your planning activities and start taking into account things that happen that you would perhaps rather didn't happen. So things happen in the world, you start being aware of risks, and then you move on to a mature approach where you are managing the risks and the opportunities allow you to have new ideas for new developments. This shape gives us 4 triangles based on past and future, known and unknown, that corresponds quite nicely to the traditional hemispheres of the brain or quadrants of the brain. So we've got left brain people, right brain people, cerebral and limbic aspects. And I know that in reality, the brain is not split like this, but the brain works by continuous communication of particular elements in different areas. This is important. And the reason I'm bringing this in, because I want you to learn as an organization to work with a full brain, because the brain is your last defense against the world. Okay, it is where there is a gap between external stimuli and how you influence the world. Now, within the context of management, I need to be able to motivate people. So I need to understand how to motivate people, to get them to be rational and responsive, get them to be reactive and reflective, all more or less at the same time. So as a manager, I have got to try to promote all these aspects. I have got to make sure that my team, my people, whether they are working from home or in the office, accept the need to do something. Accept the need to do something. I accept that I need to take better care of my health. I accept that I need to do something about it, and yet I don't do it. I need to give the people in the team the ability to work better. I need to give them the skills, the tools, the possibility of achieving better results. I know I have to take better care of my health. I could go cycling, I could go walking, I could go to a gym, I could do all those things. I have the ability today to do all of that, and yet I don't. The third thing you need to do is to have them aspire to doing the right thing, doing what is expected of them. So you've got to make them understand that this is not just in order to please management or in order to please an auditor, but it actually will make their own work-life balance better. It will make it easier for them, and they have to want to do a good job. There is the aspiration, the desire to get there. And the reason people still are not doing it is a question of acceptance. I need to have the attitude to do it. It's the attitude. It is the spontaneous reaction of doing the right thing. The only way that can come, acceptance, ability, and to some extent aspiration, I can do through management. Attitude is 100% leadership. Aspiration is quite a lot of leadership. And this is critical because the main role of a manager is to motivate. And that means protecting your team, protecting the people that you manage, determine the right approach, determine when to act, when to react, when to let it go, understand how to act differently with different individuals. Now, management, there are two fundamental approaches to how an individual acts as a manager. We're giving a person a stick. How do you react? So you've got the stick. Is it, I know everything, I decide everything, everything comes through me, I am the center of this team, I make it happen? Oh, there's the subdued manager. I was working with a team a few years ago, and one of the nicest things that someone has ever said to me professionally, as far as I'm concerned, is that at a review, one of the team members said that it took them several days to realize that I was leading the team from behind. In other words, I was guiding them, but not pushing them and forcing them to do things. Of course, other people with sticks or batons work in different ways. You might inspire people, you might establish rhythms, you might dominate and beat whatever the results you need. Probably not something you want no matter what level of management you have. Or you can use it as in a relay race to accompany, prepare, and transfer. So one of the aspects of management is understanding what is the right level of management or leadership and what's the difference. These are two different aspects, and I get very upset at how often they are confused. I'm seeing standards, including ISO standards, who are supposed to be the standards of standards, that are talking about leadership when they actually mean senior management. There are a lot of managers who are not leaders, and there are a lot of leaders who are not managers. Manager is someone you have to obey. The leader is someone you want to follow. Of course, it's not that simple. A leader inspires you. A manager has the facts. A manager will not rock the boat, knows what the budget is, knows what the status is, will protect the team. The leader has a vision and will go off towards it. If you're in an organization that has only managers and no leaders, you'll never go anywhere. If you've got only leaders and no managers, you very probably will go anywhere. You need the balance of the two of them. So we want to establish the right level, different ways. I'm bringing up here 4 traditional views of situational leadership: directing, coaching, supporting, and delegating. The top level is a lot more management aspect. The low to high on the left, directive behavior is a lot more management. The facilitator behavior from left to right is a lot more leadership. Now, if I put this in the context of traditional team building, I'm sure everyone has heard this form, storm, norm, perform aspect. So form, I have got new people. They're not quite sure why they're there. They're not quite sure what they're supposed to do. They then start having morale problems. They don't get it and so on. And the team moves through the 4 aspects, and the management approach needs to evolve accordingly. In other words, if I have got a team in form mode, a new team, people don't really know where they are, this is going to require a lot of planning, a lot of support, a lot of showing the way, a lot of teaching. They have to understand who is responsible for what is their level of responsibility and authority, and start to accept themselves as members of the team. Then typically they go into the storm mode where they start disapproving of the other team members. So the other team members, why are you here and not me? What's happened? Why should I be here? Why are you doing this? I can do that better than you, and so on. So we need some level of policeman bringing things back into line. We then get into the norm mode, and the norm mode is great. This is where we got a team that's working. As a manager, you're an orchestra leader. You're just making sure that people come in at the right time, that everything is flowing, that the coordination is happening across the board. And then finally, as you move into the performing mode, you can back off completely and really get into the inspiring mode. You're giving the rhythm, and that's about all you need to do. You know your team can do it, and you trust them completely. So what are the skills you needed to do this? And this is where things have changed somewhat. So these are the traditional skills that a manager would be expected to have. So communication aspect with the team, with each team member, with people outside the team, inspire and motivate, conflict transformation, team development, all these good things. Including, of course, monitoring and tracking and the less amusing bits. There are, however, 16 skills on which I would like to come back that, if they are not new, definitely need to be reinforced today because things have changed. The number 1 is your ability to adjust, remaining calm under pressure, okay? Things will go wrong. We know that. Stressing doesn't help. As you are dealing with a new format team, a hybrid team with some people who you can see, some people working from home, different levels of authority, people working on different time zones or time schedules, you need to understand how to manage this. Don't panic. Just think about it. Decide what is the approach you do. The peace of mind of the manager becomes critical to the success of the team. As things change, we're going to have more and more ambiguity. So you cannot do the traditional approaches, and yet you need to do them. There are things that you need to take into account, people changing their mind, changing their opinion, however, not wanting you to change your plans. Just evolve some miraculous way to make things happen. Change management is central to the new world. Things are changing, things are going to change again, and they are changing faster and faster. Every change is a risk and needs to be managed. This is so important. Change management and risk management are so critical to the way things are happening today. You need to understand we're changing faster and faster every day. You need to understand the role as the manager. So invite people to join, create a safe space, protect your team from outside disruption, and consider your own position in the team. Sometimes you need to be in the spotlight. You need to be the center of attention. You need to stop people from bothering your team. You need to speak up in the name of the team. You also need to tell the team what they are doing, what they need to do, and how to prioritize things. And then there are times when you have to be inside the team. You're a team member. You're working with them. You're doing the work along their side. You're just as responsible as they are to the outcomes and the results. And sometimes you need to step out. Have a look at the team from the outside. Go up on that balcony, look down on your team and decide, as a team, what are the issues? Then the most important aspect of this is being able to take time alone. We don't take enough time alone, specifically in management roles. You need to get out, you need to be alone, you need to think about what things are happening and how to proceed. Something that wasn't that important before and is now very important is compassion. If you've been working with a team during lockdown, you may have come across team members who are panicking. The team members who are spending 6 hours per day looking or browsing the internet for everything they can find about the coronavirus. People who don't dare go out, who don't dare speak to each other. Show some compassion. I understand it. Okay, I understand. Tell me about it. Let's work together. Let's do this over. Identify the people who want to work from home and yet are suffering from loneliness. The people who are not doing their job during school pickup time because they're picking up their kids. You're used to having them 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever it is. And now suddenly they are going off to do some shopping in the middle of the day without asking or warning. So show some compassion to them. It's not that they are not doing things. They are worried. They are unhappy. Things are happening. One of the main issues with meetings that have all moved to Zoom is that when you met people every day in the office, you could see that somebody was suddenly not speaking. Somebody was down. They're normally not this slow. What is happening? You can find out, you can realize someone is not right, whether it's depression, whether it's illness. On a Zoom call, you don't see that because you only see the face if they've got their camera on. You don't see their body language, and you don't hear the people who are not speaking. So you need to somehow break through this and identify the people who might be having problems. You need to work on conflict transformation. Now we talk about conflict management and conflict resolution. I would like to encourage more and more conflict transformation. Conflict management and conflict resolution typically focus on how to get rid of the problem. And that might not be the right approach. Conflict transformation is a completely different understanding. And it is saying, okay, how can we turn this problem into a positive fact? The fact that there is a conflict between two individuals, it's probably not over the element they're arguing about today. It's something that goes way back. They've got different characters. They've got different experience. They've got different ways of expressing themselves. They've been hurt in their pride, whatever it is. How can you turn this into a positive, into a strength, rather than just resolving the symptoms of the conflict? Curiosity. I miss curiosity in so many businesses. For 45 years, I have been working in companies around the world. I have worked with senior managers of significant multinationals, and I have worked with entrepreneurs with a handful of team members. The biggest missing thing in most of them is curiosity. Okay? It doesn't matter how good you are, how much you think you know. Go out there and find out what it is you don't know and why you didn't know it. It would make life so much easier if you knew the things you didn't know. It would also allow you to respect some of the more unlikely people in your team who know things you didn't know. Manage your ethics. Your ethics are so critical. You need to keep this in balance at all times. As a manager, as an employee, working from home, working in the office, you have got temptations. You've got temptations at home that nobody will see that you're not doing your job. They will. You need to take that into account. You need to respect that. If you're working at the office, there is the basic temptation of stealing reams of paper for your home printer and things like that. Just decide what is important. Focus on your ethics, define them, and make sure your team understands your ethics and knows that you respect them. Work on the different levels of intelligence. There are different types of intelligence. Understand all the different types of intelligence and why some people don't understand what you're trying to tell them because they're thinking in a different way. They've got an emotional response rather than a logical response. They're so focused on problem solving that they're not interested in listening to what the problem actually is. Okay, so we need to try to find this balance between all these different types of intelligence and the different other side of this, the knowledge. So understand what is important within your job. Understand what is important for your team. Understand how to bring together these different forms of intelligence, these people with completely different experiences, these people working in different environments, even though they're working in the same organization on the same project. Understand how to manage these things and motivate them. Your job as a manager, first and foremost, is to make people want to do a good job and to remove any barriers that stop them from being proud of the work they have done. So you want to reward the attitudes. You want to make sure you understand that outcomes are more important than attendance. You want to build mutual trust, and building mutual trust means you are doing what you say you're doing, and you believe it, you're communicating consistently. Get your ducks in a row, understand how things should be done, make sure that your mission, your culture, your communication, your tasks, your strategy, your continual improvement programs, your definitions of how do all these fit together? How do they relate to one another? Make sure you understand this and make sure that everyone within your team understands it. Every person in your team is a unique individual based on a unique experience as well as DNA and ethnicity and so on. A lot of teams, a lot of brilliant ideas fail, not because it was a bad idea, but it is because I have brought into my team people that I can work with, people who have the same team spirit, the same background, and I'm missing a whole series of points of view and understanding outside this. By not respecting the psychology of the individuals involved, you are just going to create additional levels of frustration. And of course, if I'm talking about psychology of team members, that's also self-awareness. It's your own psychology that you need to understand. If you don't do this, if you are giving contradictory, if you are telling people to do things they cannot do, if you are wasting their time, you're just going to create frustration, people that are fed up and just want to go home and give up. Listen when you have an idea, listen to what your team members are telling you. Respond to it, adapt your solution, and adopt whatever it is they are suggesting to do instead. Make sure that there is risk awareness. Everybody within an organization should be continuously looking for risks, actively seeking them out, trying to find out why this is going to fail. How can we make this better? What should we be doing next? And working on this in order to try to move things forwards. At the bottom level of the organization, I might find strategy level risks that I want to report. Now, for me, this is catastrophic. And when it gets brought up to the CEO level and the board of directors, it's stupid and it's minimal. Okay, I understand this. Different levels will give different importance to different types of risks. But you need to plan for risks. I gave a presentation a few months ago asking people why they weren't ready for a pandemic. I mean, we knew this was coming. We've known for over 20 years that this pandemic was coming, and yet people were not ready for it. I have seen IT companies who specialize in IT, who install cloud solutions, who found out that they could not get their staff to work from home. If you're specializing in implementing cloud solutions at your customers, how come your IT people cannot access your system safely, securely from home? That's part of what you're selling. Understand sociology, okay? The wisdom of your team is the sum of the knowledge that they have. It is what allows them to decide instinctively what is the right solution to a problem they have never seen before. Your team, just like society, just like a business, is not a series of individuals. It is a series of relationships and interactions. You need to understand the relationships that are there. And if you try to change something in the team, you need to try to understand what are the relationships you are going to break, the ones you are going to stretch, the ones you are going to lose, because that will lead to your key people leaving if things go badly. And finally, these are presented alphabetically and not in any specific order, so I'll leave it at that level. Understand your values, your company's values, your team members' values. I'm always surprised when talking to just a project manager or team leader, and I say, okay, what is motivating the people in your team? And they don't know. They don't know. If you don't know who is coming to work in order to get their daughter into university and pay for the fees, who is coming to work in order to pay for a home for their elderly parents, who is coming to work in order to promote themselves, in order to become a world celebrity as soon as possible, who is coming to work in order to be able to go out and get drunk on Friday night. You need to understand these different aspects of people, what their values are, so that you can motivate them. And they have to get them to align with your organization and your own levels. Working with the individuals is critical. Most organizations end up in this ridiculous structure in which a very small group of people are actually doing what your clients want them to do, what the organization to do. The people who are building the widgets, who are writing the code or the texts or whatever it is, okay? And then there's this enormous amount of people who are just there to control the few who are doing what is really important. This doesn't work. We need to get rid of this as soon as possible because it is destructive. Instead of focusing on the client, you will have to focus on promotion and on pleasing your manager. Good engineers, the best people on the front line, your strongest people, get promoted to become bad managers, so that you've now got a bad manager and you've lost a good engineer. Okay? You very rapidly then get into the condition where you are pushing people to obey rules. Compliance is more important than improvement. The needs of the business, the desires of your clients get subsumed into the rules, the policies, the processes, the standards. And any effort to reduce costs get overwhelmed by the new overhead you're putting in place to manage it. Okay, an organization is an organism. It has a number of components that have to work together, that interact with one another. Just like a body, if one thing goes wrong, it won't work. So you need to get all these different components working together, collaborating, and providing towards, it's an ecosystem. An ecosystem is a system in which the smallest component depends on the whole structure. That's very different from the traditional view of the system, where the system depends on the components. In an ecosystem, the components depend on the system. And if you are going to progress, you've got to get rid of this old hierarchy, this patriarchy of systems, where you've got kings and barons who are enforcing their authority and establishing their expertise and their field, and get very upset if anyone comes in and steps them, and put in place an organization based on the circulation of information and knowledge. And that's what I called here a cell-based organization. The idea is that people who are doing the same jobs in different areas are coming together on a regular basis to discuss how to solve their common problems. Rather than escalating everything up to management and complaining that the others are not doing it the same way or using the same tool, we're going to create cells of people that will start to self-organize. It's a group. No, it's not a group. It's a team of people who are working together on an ongoing basis, setting their own processes and standards, solving their own problems, making their own decisions based on their internal knowledge and focusing on solving the issues so that the work can be organized most effectively. Many companies have failed in this. And the reason this failed is because they see this simply as empowerment. However, if you're going to empower people, you need to give them the power to be empowered. In other words, you need to give them the power, the authority to make decisions, to make investments within their area. They know better than you do what's going wrong within their work environment. Of course, wouldn't it be easier if things weren't so difficult? Complexity and relative aspects of this. Complex means difficult to understand. Simple means easy to understand. Simplistic means too simple. We like simplistic approaches. We like simplistic. Not going to point fingers in any direction, but I would say that over the past 20 years, I am seeing more and more politicians being elected based on a simplistic slogan rather than a complex analysis of the situation. We like simplistic, but it doesn't work. People are complex. People are complex. I had a slide earlier on in which I said that every individual is the sum of their education, of their experience, of every book and melody that they've consumed in their life, as well as their DNA. There is no obvious way to control an individual or predict how they are going to react. Tools are complicated. They will react the way they're supposed to because they've got thousands of little bits that are working together. Okay, no matter how magnificent your tool is, it can be taken apart and put back together by someone who understands it. Theories, models, standards are simple. Academics, self-help books typically give you a simple solution saying this is going to resolve all your problems. And that's where organizations get chaotic because they are using complex people to solve complex situations using simplistic theories that might not fit into the complicated tools you are using. Before starting on something, you need to understand the environment, the objectives, the expectations. How complex, complicated is this actually going to be so that you can take the ideal solution? I'm a big fan of Dave Snowden's Kneffing sense-making framework, which allows you to identify what are the things that would make something complex and recommend an approach of when you should just do it. If it's obvious, just do it and get it out there. But avoid doing that when it is not obvious, but spend time thinking and understanding it. We have for years been pushing system thinking, where we are trying to reach an ideal solution from where we are. by making sure that the simple approach to a system will work. And typically it fails because life is more complicated than that. Using complexity thinking means continuously challenging, revisiting where you are in order to correct and get into your destination. If you want to move forwards, you need complexity thinking, understand where you are, understand how I can get the right information in front of the right person at the right time so that they will get it. And of course, you will get cynics who will tell you that whatever you want to do or trying to do won't work. That's great. Value them, listen to them. The cynics challenge you. They are there to tell you what are the weaknesses, what are the risks in your solution. They are there to tell you what could be resolved if what you are suggesting contains weaknesses. I can then move to the next step. How can we avoid that difficulty? Listen, respond, adapt, adopt, take them on board, get them involved in defining, designing, developing, and deploying your solutions. And so that brings me to the conclusion. My principles is that quality is the only thing you have to offer people. So whether you are an organization or an individual, it is only your quality that differentiates you. I can find other businesses, other people who can do the same thing differently. Now you need to define, do you mean by quality, do you mean zero defect? Do you mean by quality first on the market? Do you mean sustainable solutions? You define what it means. Do you want to be the cheapest in the world? That's fine. These are all valid approaches, valid solutions. Once you've understood that, you need to motivate the people to deliver this, to want to deliver it. So putting in place processes and standards and methodologies and metrics and so on doesn't help. It's the people who do the work. Your processes and your audits and all this other stuff are only useful to the extent that they make it easier for your people to do a better job. That is the only reason. You need to encourage, motivate, lead, listen. You need to take personal responsibility for the mental health, the stress of your team members. You need to be there and understand that. Naturally, we like solving your problems. We like doing that. That's part of the way we are designed. I was years ago working with one of the largest insurance companies in Europe, possibly the largest, which probably means that I don't need to say their name because you can guess who it is, but never mind. If you do guess the name, I will not confirm or deny. And they had this new guy who came on board, and he was really good. He was really dynamic, interesting, full of ideas, really wanting to change the world. And I said to his manager, make sure you use him as much as possible before you kill off his spirit within the next few months. And effectively, a few months later, this young man, I mean, he must have been the very early 20s, had learned that in the insurance business, you come in, you do your 9 to 5, and you don't do anything you have not been told to do. You just do the minimum. Presence is more important than outcomes. That is not a good solution. We like challenges. We do crosswords. We do Sudokus. As a manager, you need to facilitate, not bully people. I've learned a lot recently from No Rules Rules, which is the book by Reed Hastings and Erin Meyer, sorry. Reed Hastings is the CEO and founder of Netflix. So he knows a little bit about making a company work. And one of the strong things that he focuses on is the need for feedback. Honest feedback at every level, from every level, to every level. If he, as CEO and founder of Netflix, does something and you, as the person who empties the bins and sweeps the floors, thinks this is wrong, he expects you to tell him, okay? He wants to make sure that you get this feedback all times, that you listen to it, and that you that you understand the feedback and act accordingly. And for this, there are 4 basic rules. For the person giving feedback, you are trying to assist. You are trying to help. Just saying, I don't like the way you did that is not helpful. So give feedback that is helpful. Give feedback that is actionable. Give feedback where they can actually react and do something. And when you receive feedback, appreciate it. Appreciate the fact that somebody out there is trying to help you, is trying to offer you a better idea. And then it is up to you and you alone to weigh the pros and cons, accept or discard the feedback. And so my final word, going way back in history, Apollo's temple in Delphi, good place to start. Know yourself, nothing to excess. Don't force people to follow processes and standards that are not useful. And if you are sure of your approach and your solution, you'll probably fail. Ask people to confirm, ask people to tell you about it. And it's with that I finish. Okay. Happy to answer any questions. I think you should be able to unmute yourself. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. I'll have a look at a sec. And one more slide. I would very much appreciate if you give me feedback. So if you go to bit.ly /OK-feedback, OK standing for orchestrated knowledge. Please give me feedback. Any feedback given will allow you to have a free consultation to answer any specific questions you have to ask or to share.